Fast batch pre-processing versus weighted batch pre-processing. I'm going to have to show you a preview of what's to come. I can't believe I'm saying that. I came into making this video thinking I was going to find a strong case for weighted batch pre-processing. The only case I could think of right now is to utilize drizzling. Welcome to SETI Astro. I guess let's start by opening up the scripts. I think everybody knows weighted batch pre-processing, so let's go ahead and look at fast batch pre-processing right away. Now, it's a much slimmed down look than WBPP. Still has bias darks, flats, and lights, but there's no real options for any of that in there. In the calibration pane, again, no real options. Let me just load in a couple lights. And you can see, yeah, there's just no options. Same with post-calibration, and then pipeline almost has nothing. So my concern right off the bat, there's no pedestal setting, so subtracting darks from narrowband images may clip some of your data at 0. There's also no means of doing cosmetic correction. And then for post-calibration, it's strictly the fast integration. There's no drizzle option. And I, for one, am a huge advocate of drizzling your data almost every single time. You can't go wrong drizzling. The other thing, there's no local normalization, there's no astrometric solutions, and there's no auto crop. So fast integration is really just stack everything as fast as possible. That's what it's geared to at the potential loss of data in your images, right? As images have different brightnesses to get stacked together, it just isn't going to average as correctly as if everything was normalized to the same brightness scale. You're running that risk of losing data with the pedestal, and cosmetic correcting any of your hot pixels and things like that too. Those will manifest themselves in the final stacked image. That said, fast batch pre-processing is fast. Here's some. This was over 200 frames. That was 3 minutes 46 seconds. Again, about 150 frames, 2 minutes 50 seconds. And this one was, again, over 200 frames, again, 4 minutes. And then to do the same exact one that took 3 minutes and 46 seconds in weighted batch pre-processing with no auto cropping or drizzling, right? This is just kind of a base thing there. That was 48 minutes for me. So we're talking a factor of over 10 faster. Fast batch pre-processing is such a different beast than WBPP that it was even hard to try to do a good comparison between the output of fast integration and full normal integration. Since fast batch pre-processing doesn't do any cropping or anything, I had to run that first and tell PixInsight to use that output file as the reference frame for all my weighted batch pre-processing, so it would align it to that correctly. The other thing, since it doesn't do any normalization during the process, in order to compare with WBPP, I ran it also with no registration or normalization on one. I also ran it again with local normalization turned on. And then I ran it with 2x drizzle like I normally would do on all my images as well. So let's go ahead and look at the differences between these, and we'll try to be very rigorous with how we're approaching this. The first thing I think we should do is crop out the stacking artifacts. We don't want to throw off any of our analyses with that. So I'm going to go ahead and do a pretty aggressive crop. And we'll go ahead and crop the fast batch pre-processing, the WBPP. We also got the one that we did a local normalization on. And then for the drizzled one, we're going to have to handle that a little differently in a bit. I think the next thing we want to do is linear fit these items, because they're not the same as far as the histograms are concerned. All right, we have our linear fits done. So now that we have linear fit together, we could look at the histograms here in the linear state. This is the fast integration histogram versus the normal method. So the fast integration does have a slightly wider histogram that'd be more indicative of larger variance or a larger standard deviation within the image itself. So that's going to be more noise essentially within the image. So that's one empirical way you could look at it. Another thing we could do is take a small cropped section of each one, the same cropped section. Now, I've seen a lot of people just kind of blink these two, one right after the other, to look for differences in noise and brightness and things like that. But let's try to be as careful as we can. Yes, by eye, there are some differences, although you'd be hard-pressed to tell a whole lot. So let's go ahead and use pixel math and just subtract the two and see what the difference is between them. Before we subtract them, I do want to see which one may be slightly larger than the other. So here's the weighted batch pre-processing. We got a 0.0163. That's a 3.135. So the weighted batch pre-processing is slightly brighter. So we'll have that one first. So we want that one minus the fast. And then I'm going to add just a little pedestal down at the bottom so we can avoid any black clipping that may occur. And we want a new image. So now this is our subtraction. This is batch pre-processing minus fast batch pre-processing. And if you run STF, it's just noise in there. It doesn't look like any signal, any of the structure is actually gone, which is very revealing to me, right? So it does look like that it potentially is just some noise in the background. Now that we did a little trial on a small cropped area, let's go ahead and just subtract the two main ones here. We had WBPP minus fast batch pre-processing. I do want to add that little pedestal again, just to ensure that we don't clip our blacks, and we'll create a new image. And again, we'll just label this minus. And the big reveal, we'll run STF on this. And there's some gradient in here. And potentially in the core, there are some differences in brightness. But I think you would be hard-pressed to find actual structure anywhere in this. But we could try to be a little better. We could try to remove this gradient in here and see if there are some major differences. And I'm just going to try using my ADBE. I definitely don't want to include those dark areas in the middle, as that will throw off the gradient. Let's just go for it. All right, so we removed that gradient in there, and with the exception of some variance in the stellar brightness and in the core of Andromeda itself, I think you would be very hard-pressed to find any structure at all within this, right? This is one-to-one. We had zoom way in, and it's just a difference in noise. This is almost like what you would see if you were just using a different rejection algorithm, right? There's no structure at all in this entire image, which is hugely surprising to me. I was expecting some major difference somewhere in here. Yeah, crazy. So let's check out the one we did the local normalization on. We'll compare it to our fast batch preprocessing the same way. I'm going to linear fit it and then subtract them. Okay, here's our subtract difference. The gradient looks a little different. So let's go ahead and remove the gradient. All right, here we are now. This is the local normalized versus fast integration. And again, with the exception of the core brightnesses being a little different and leading to that. There is maybe just a touch of just a hint that there could be some structure. Like even if we really stretch it, there's a little touch there. And you could see on the one limb coming down here, maybe a little bit. Okay, so again, hugely surprising to me. I thought we were going to be seeing a lot more in here versus just a difference in stacking noise. Okay, to now compare it to the drizzled image, I'm going to go ahead and star align the fast integrated image to the drizzled image. That'll expand it, just doing integer resampling and any rotations it needs to. Okay, now we have our newly registered image here. And we can go ahead and crop them similarly. Okay, now they're cropped. Why don't we just go ahead and do a quick zoom? I just want to look. So now this is our drizzle data. This is the fast batch pre-processing that was just scaled. Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to see visually any difference. Let's go ahead and do our pixel math trick and see if we could really see anything here. And I need to linear fit them first. Now we'll go ahead and run pixel math. And again, now we could see that there is some differences right off the bat. We can go ahead and remove this gradient just to see them easier. Yes, and now down deep towards the galaxy itself, there are spots where there is somewhat of a difference between the drizzled image and not, but it isn't as broad as I would have figured. These are about as bad as you would see if you had just rescaled a normal image versus a 2x drizzled image. So right now, call me surprised that if you're not intending on drizzling, I hate to say it, but at least in this example, fast batch pre-processing at like a 1x scale shows no difference than the full weighted batch pre-processing with local normalization or without local normalization at a 10th the time. That's one example. Why start up at 1? I also did this for my Wolf-Rayet image. three channels. We have fast batch preprocessing and weighted batch preprocessing. No normalization. Try to keep them as close to apples as you can. But we saw in the Andromeda one, even turning on local normalization didn't do a whole lot after you remove the gradient in the end. So I'm going to quickly go ahead, linear fit all these, do subtractions, and see what we get. Okay, all the linear fits are done. Let's go ahead and do the subtractions. Okay, let's check out our differences. Here's the differences in sulfur. Pretty subtle, but there is some broad differences in there. Oxygen, there's definitely differences in oxygen. The arc. And then hydrogen, there is some. Again, let's just remove the linear gradient quickly with ABE. All right, so in this example, there is differences. Here's some brightnesses that were different between them. Oxygen, you could really tell that there was some difference between them. Hydrogen, it's not as apparent, but it is there. Sulfur was a weaker signal anyways, but there are some differences. But we're not talking about a huge amount. Remember, we put the 0.02 pedestal in there, so from 0.0, so this is 3 zeros and a 6, and then minus 3 zeros and a 7. I mean, we're talking less than 0.001 variance between the highs and the lows, where that signal may have been a little different. So, quite startling to me in my mind still. So here, this is 3 zeros in a 4 to the brighter area, which is right at 2. So again, yeah, less than 0.001 value between the lows and the highs. That is just an immensely small difference between weighted batch preprocessing and fast batch preprocessing. Totally not what I expected at all. I expect a lot bigger. Like this is an insane amount of closeness between these two completely different integration techniques, one of which is over 10 times faster. It's just blowing my mind. If you are not drizzling, which I really recommend drizzling, but if you're not drizzling, fast batch preprocess. I can't believe I'm saying that. I came into making this video thinking I was going to find a strong case for weighted batch preprocessing. The only case I could think of right now is to utilize drizzling. There's also some other niceties about auto cropping and doing your astrometric solution, but you can crop your image. You can run image solver 10 times faster. I am blown away. Let's do one more for good measure. Weighted batch preprocessing on the left, fast batch preprocessing on the right. Let's crop. Do a nice aggressive crop on each. Then linear fit. Okay, we'll go ahead and subtract the 2. And we'll go ahead and remove the gradient. So again, you can see some minor structure down here. And we're talking 3 zeros and a 6 versus up there 3 zeros and a 7. So again, less than 0.001 between the highs and the lows on the signal itself, which is just so minimal Again, it almost looks like just the difference in stacking algorithm and noise than anything large at all. Because STF, in order to show these differences, is stretching this image between, what are these? Point 0.00, it's like 196 and 208, 206. Yeah, it's literally the high and low is less than 0.001 difference. So it's stretching all that just to give us this brightness versus this brightness for over 10 times improved speed. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of hardcore individuals out there that'll definitely going to stick with WBPP no matter what for that amount of difference. And if you're going to drizzle, which I definitely recommend, again, still drizzling is going to give you the sharpest image you can get. You'll have to stick with WBPP. But if you are not drizzling, use fast batch preprocessing. Or if you just want to see what your day is going to look like pretty quick, run fast batch preprocessing. Get a feel for what your data looks like. And then you can go ahead and run WBPP if you want to drizzle. I'm blown away. Again, I came into this fully expecting I was just going to poo-poo all over fast batch preprocessing, and I'm sitting here stunned. Like, comment, and subscribe.